Hi, I'm Tom Zimmerman.
And I'm Cynthia Spiegel.
We'd like to speak to you today about why we believe UUSG is so valuable and worthy of your support. Our story is interesting in that it started many years ago as two separate but very similar stories. We each had our own lives and families, but we were drawn to UUSG for the same reasons. Cynthia's kids and my kids are adults now, and Cynthia and I have found each other in a deeper way, and we now continue together to value and support UUSG. One of our passions at UUSG is, I'll bet you can guess, music. I don't remember exactly how it happened, but I somehow landed a gig as a pianist at UUSG in the 90s. I played several times a year, and those were usually the only Sundays I was at church. But I found the people and the ideas welcoming and interesting, so I started attending once in a while when I wasn't a pianist. I discovered that this church is really blessed to have an unusually wide variety of talented musicians that all bring their own strengths, and that this is really valued by the community. Oh, and by the way, you happen to have an excellent music director. I feel really fortunate to be a part of a diverse group of musicians, and we all share our talents in helping to lift up the community. Coming from a Protestant background, I also very much appreciate the not agreeing in opinion part of our covenant. Sometimes our diversity can lead to challenges, but I'd rather be at a church where I'm challenged.
I remember 23 years ago walking into this church for the first time with 3 daughters under the age of 5, including a newborn. I remember many things about that first visit, including the theme of the sermon. Its message offered both grace, just for being, no human blood necessary, and challenge, themes which continue here to this day. I had been a devoted churchgoer for much of my life until early adulthood exposed me to ideas I could not ignore, and I felt I had no choice but to give up the fundamentalist beliefs I'd grown up with. But in throwing it all away, I missed the good and valuable parts of church, the devotion to each other as well as to a higher cause. And as happens to many of us, I wanted to offer my children some form of religious experience. In this case, an extended family of shared values and the formal structure that church offers. Almost immediately, I volunteered to teach RE, and in the next several years, as I taught alongside other parents, I connected with people who became and remain some of my closest friends. Along with my children, I discovered a place to be authentic and to explore things that mattered to me. And the music, how I'd always loved the singing at church and had watched my mother lead hymns on Sunday since I was a child. I had also taken church music courses at college, and church music was in my blood. So imagine my delight and surprise on the very first Sunday and in the weeks that followed when we sang hymns here that I'd grown up with and missed, but now with words that did not make me cringe, and in fact, reminded me how singing what you believe can be so very powerful. I was in.
As much as I love the music at UUSG, I think an even more important thing to support is the environment that we provide for our youth. When I was sporadically attending church around 15 years ago, I became aware of the YRUU, the high school youth group, and I suggested to my daughter, Kat, that she check it out. She did, and she loved it. It provided a really invaluable alternative peer group outside of high school, a place where you didn't have to mask your identity and you could be who you were and discuss ideas openly. Kat became interested in going on the yearly YRUU Habitat trip, and she asked me if I would like to come along as a chaperone. I said, sure. We went, and we were hooked. What an experience this is for both the adults and the kids. I soon became one of the youth group advisors, and I went on the Habitat trip every year. I've had the privilege of mentoring and forming lots of meaningful relationships with many of our high school kids that have passed through YRUU over the years, and watching them grow from shy and fumbling freshmen into confident adults. That's, in fact, why I know all of Cynthia's daughters as well as I do. The Habitat trip is truly one of the biggest gems of this church. It's such a unique and valuable growth opportunity for our high schoolers. And after my own daughter graduated from college, she volunteered to do some roof repair for the organization All Hands after the hurricane in Puerto Rico. She did so well that they offered her a job, and she took it. This doesn't just happen randomly. The seeds for that were planted here at this church. Thank you, UUSG.
I can echo what Tom said so beautifully. My daughters found room to connect with other doers and thinkers and could safely question some of the public school status quo values they felt uncomfortable with. My daughters are all clearly better people for having grown up in this church. And it might interest you to know that the newborn, Sophia, I walked in with 23 years ago, some of you know her from earlier days, others may recognize her from her musical contributions recently. She is now in the process of applying to grad schools in divinity and interested in becoming a UU minister. As Tom said, that kind of thing comes from seeds planted here. We encourage you, if you haven't already, to jump in, volunteer, and make closer connections of your own. And specifically now, to consider what you feel good about giving to this place that gives so much in return.